Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for joining us at the next in our series of leadership conversations. We're delighted to see you all here today. I see a lot of familiar names looking straight at one now, Shirley, in the audience. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate our network and we really appreciate you supporting our conversations. So as you know, as almost all of you know by now, the Rising Star is our program that recognises the most talented young professionals across South Africa, and it gives them a platform to connect and to rise. I also see so many grad stars here. So again, thank you, top students, amazing, the future of the country. So today, as you all know, we are so excited to be welcoming Theo Baloyi. He's a superstar of design, incredible entrepreneur, and a darling of social media. He's one of the most incredible, fast-growing entrepreneurs, opening, I believe, if I'm right, his 100th store recently, and achieving all of this in just a few short years. I know I can certainly learn a thing or two from him. But there's also a couple of things I would like to mention about him that you may not know. Raised in Alex with his uncle, Theo always, from the beginning, had a vision of creating a true, authentic South African sneaker brand. But before he did this, he qualified as an accountant and paid his dues in corporate life. I see a couple of PwC representatives here. Perhaps that's from the days at PwC, Theo. He founded Bathu 6 years ago, and he now employs, within 6 years, 216 people. But what is incredible is that 80% of his employees come from Alex. What an incredible commitment to the community that raised him, and an incredible commitment to improving the lives of so many South Africans. We are honoured to feature you here today, Theo. So with that said, it should come as no surprise that Theo joins the plethora of leaders before him, giving back to the next generation, and also offering a 1-hour mentorship to someone in the audience today. What an incredible prize. Imagine what you can learn, whether you want to learn about corporate life, whether you want to explore your own entrepreneurial flair. What an incredible opportunity. So make sure you guys are noticed today. Introduce yourselves in the chat, who you are, what you do, where you come from. And don't forget to ask questions. I will be coming back on later and asking Theo directly the best of the questions throughout the hour and a half. So show up and watch our socials for the announcements on who wins this incredible mentorship prize. So as many of you know by now, we also use these leadership conversation series as an opportunity to give one of our former rising stars a platform, not that she needs it, but when it came to Theo, I knew exactly who to match him with. I remember Jess from judging on the awards evening, always so cool, so funky, with the best hairstyles, and wowing the judges too. And so I would like to thank Jess for her time. She's our 2015 Rising Star of Media and Advertising. She's Jess Wheeler, and she has now excelled even further in her own field since the day we recognised her to be MD of Publicis. So well done and thank you, Jess. So I'm so excited about this event. I hope you can feel it. Two of South Africa's most incredible creative minds cannot fail to be an exceptional interview. As I said, I'll be monitoring all your questions in the chat, and I'll come back on to ask the best. But for now, welcome to the main event. Theo and Jess, thank you for your time and your commitment to these talented future leaders in the audience, and welcome to stage. Thank you.
Thank you for the invite, Laura. Truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Laura. I'm sorry to disappoint. I have the most boring hair today. I keep saying to my husband, adult job, adult hair, gone are the nice shaved side. So it's nice to meet you, Theo. I'm as excited about the 150 people on this call to be facilitating this with you. It really is. It's one of my key things that have happened over the last year. So I'm very excited, and I hope everybody gets a load out of this. So shall we jump straight into it? I mean, we obviously want to keep this casual. Laura's going to jump on the questions later on, but I think what we really want to know, Laura obviously gave a background of where you've come from and how you've gotten to where you are. Give us your journey. Give us your version of Theo and how he landed up in this awe-inspiring place that you are today. Theo?
Okay, I think Theo's just got a bandwidth issue. Theo Baloyi has just lost internet connection. It happens to the best of us.
I feel better about myself already. Let's give him a few minutes to get back in. Shame. Technology's great.
Here he is. He's back. Hi, Theo.
Hi guys, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
No worries. No
Internet
worries. You're
connection
back.
very low.
You're back. You don't need me. I'm out again.
Thanks, Laura. Cool. Theo, I don't know where we lost you. I had just mentioned that Laura's given us a very rapid rundown of your history and your past and how you landed up being the great Theo Baloyi that you are today. So love to hear in your words about the journey that's brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. Pleased to meet you as well. It's a pleasure to share this platform with you, and thank you to Rising Star for the invitation. I think my story is a story of I think it's a true South African story. I come from extremely humble beginnings, as Laura has said. I lived in Alex. I was actually born in a village called Park. It's just a few kilometers outside Hammanskraal. That's where I matriculated, and like any other kid in South Africa, after matric, I came to Johannesburg to further my studies, in accounting, and that's when I lived with my uncle in Alex. And I think it's then when I was living with my uncle in Alex that the entrepreneurial bug bit me while I was doing my undergrad in become accounting sciences.
Amazing. And from having a BCom, in accounting and finances, which for a lot of people is right the pinnacle. It's a huge achievement. You obviously, how long did you stay at that before you actually realized there was something bigger calling you?
I think I've always known. I've always knew that there's something, bigger that is calling me. Because having lived in Alex, when I was still doing my undergrad in become accounting sciences, I used to sell, perfumes door to door. My friend Andrew and I, when we were studying, Andrew was studying law and I was studying accounting. We were those guys that used to sell perfumes, door to door. And I think that's when the entrepreneurial bug bit me. So when I went into corporate, I had PwC, which afforded me great opportunity and has sort of opened my eyes to and my mind to the world, and has allowed me to tap into I think amazing opportunities, not only in South Africa but globally. I always had that calling in me to go back home and to be of service to to my community. And the reason I'm saying that was because oftentimes when I was in corporate, I'm doing very well in corporate in Dubai, doing asset management, working for PwC, EMEA region. And oftentimes when I came back home, I would see that our brothers and sisters, suffering and they don't have employment. And oftentimes when you talk to them in the township, you realize that it's not because they are lazy or anything, but when you listen to their stories and their challenges and the dynamics of the township, it's mainly because a lot of them, didn't get the opportunities that we've gotten. I've had an opportunity to have a bursary funded by Tomorrow Trust, 100% for my tuition, for my books, and allowances as well. And I also had an opportunity to work for PwC that exposed me to great opportunities as well. And it's not everyone who comes from LX who's got that opportunity. So I sort of felt that it is in me to do something. I cannot be the only one who's an accountant in my family, in my community, who drives a nice car, who travels the world, and I'm doing nothing. So that's why I had that edge and that calling to quit my job, to come back home and build with my people. And when I talk about building with my people, I mean that because I've built from a room in Alex, to the business that we are today 5 years later with 230 plus people employed. And mine was to be of service to my community and try to make an impact in my community, and really be of service instead of just blaming the government or blaming corporate South Africa or blaming the dynamics of our country and where the economy is at. I was like, I have an opportunity, and PwC has empowered me with not only the salary that I've gotten, but with great network and great lessons. What am I doing with that wealth of knowledge and with that network, to start something that can be of service to the community? And I think from the days I sold perfumes door to door, I knew that there's a bigger calling.
It's amazing. You said something, you actually said it twice, so it must be as important to you as it is to me when you say being of service, and particular.
Yeah.
You know, I think when you get to a leadership position, people assume that you are there to take charge and lead from the top. And being of service is such an important thing, particularly for leadership today. I'm interested to know, what are the other key attributes of being a successful leader in your instance? You know, what are those things that I think we can almost dispel those notions of what being a leader is? I mean, a lot of people think a leader is you work the least amount of hours, you get the most credit for all the hard work, and you make all the money, right? This idea of being of service to people is so important and so strong. So what are the other attributes of being a great leader, in your opinion?
I think, in my opinion, you know, oftentimes, you know, I see it with my business that a lot of times people see the great work that happens in a team, you know, the great accolades, great accomplishment as we build our end-to-end value chain. And oftentimes people, you know, compliment and congratulate Theo, and I'm like, I've got nothing to do with that. You know, I just started the business, but that is, you know, a separate business unit, you know, which is led by someone who's got the great, you know, abilities and skills to lead and build that, you know, a business unit or that component, or to lead that project to being a success. And I think for me, being one of the attributes of being a great leader is it's not only coming forth when, you know, there's great accomplishment and taking all the credit, but sometimes being, I think, at the forefront of failure, you know, and owning up, you know, the failure, and trying to, you know, walk the journey with your people and lead them to great success. Because oftentimes when you are a leader and people think that you've got it all together, you know, the people that, you know, that you're leading, they also have the pressure to sort of do the same and do well in their field of work, you know, because they want to sort of contribute and add to the basket of the accomplishment and, you know, everything else that's happening in a business. So what I try to do, one of my attributes, is that whenever there's something, you know, when we fail at something, when we fail at the project and things are not working out in the business, I always take ownership of that and be in the forefront of that, as opposed to, blaming our people or trying to, put the blame on the failure on someone. But I take it on myself, and sometimes I even advocate it as, my failure and our failure. But most importantly, the lesson that comes from that. So I think being at the forefront of, the trials and tribulations that you face in your business, and being able to lead your team, and I often say this, in our business, that oftentimes I get invited in platforms like this, to share my story. But sometimes as leaders, we don't get to do that with our own teams. So I share my most vulnerable moments, with the team, so that I can enable them and show them that, I'm also a human being and I don't have it all figured out. And it's okay if you fail at certain things. So I think that is one of the attributes that we need to sort of advocate a lot. And I often say this when I was going through a growth curve in my business. There's certain challenges that I've experienced that, even my mentors and the people that I look up to, they've never shared. I've looked at their YouTube, interviews, and many of their interviews that they've done, in different platforms. And I've had a privilege of meeting or knowing some of them in person, and I engage with them. And I often ask them that, how come you never told me that, it does not work like that, and because they all say the nice things. And I'm like, if you told me that it does not work like that, and I've watched a video the other day, you were talking about human capital and being a leader, but you never mentioned that in that interview, and now that I'm here with you, you're saying it to me, so what I'm trying to say is that sometimes as leaders, one of the great attributes is to just be vulnerable and, with your team, and be at the forefront of, failure and when things are not going well, and take ownership and lead from that, and build from that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, speaking about of trials and tribulations, I'm interested to know, what about leadership has tested you the last year, right? Because I mean, I obviously follow/stalk you on Instagram, and it seems like at a time when the world, not even just the country, is concerned about growth, and the retail market is what it is and facing all these kinds of challenges. Yeah. There's Bathu opening store after store after store every weekend, and I'm like, how's this guy? He's so brazen and so brave to, in the face of all this like chaos and disaster, keep pushing. So what part of your leadership has been tested the most over the last 18 months now?
Hugh, geez, there's a lot, but I think I can talk the whole day about that. But I think it's being able to manage people, because with what has been happening, I think in the global economy, people have been impacted, and people they're not in the right state of being, and it hasn't been, I think globally, it hasn't been, we haven't had normal trade, in different sectors in the longest of time. And we've seen how other economies have been impacted heavily with job losses, with people losing their loved ones due to the pandemic. So that goes a lot to, it really has a great impact on our people, the people that work for us in trade and out of trade. And I think, I had to sort of lead that and understand that we are, at the end of the day, working with people, and people are, creators of emotions. And that is why, human capital is so important in the business, because oftentimes entrepreneurs, we tend to think that HR or human capital is about, signing a contract of employment with terms and clauses and having a salary and leave days, and then that binds us, and that's where it ends. But you are working with people that have come from different walks of life, from different backgrounds, and they need to come to work, and you don't know what they're going through, at home, or how the pandemic has impacted them, yet they need to show up at work every day. So I was challenged in the sense that I had to be a leader that is, considerate of where people come from and their emotions as well, and be able to put the right processes and policies in place that are going to accommodate, the human creatures with emotions in the business. And I think, I've been tested in that regard, over the last 12 months, because I had to lead people in the most difficult, I think, times. You had to lead people who are losing their loved ones, yet they still need to show up a week later at work, and they need to go through, the process at work and go through what they're tasked to do at work, with the heavy heart. So for me, I've been challenged with that, to be that leader that is not only for profit, but a leader that is for people. Even when times we need to commercialize, and contribute to the bottom line. And how do you actually balance that, with being a human being at the end of the day, and being able to lead your people, knowing that they're human beings, So, and I think I've grown to be that leader that is, not only of service, but that takes into consideration, people, the people facts in the business, that we are working with people.
I think if this COVID period has taught us anything, is this the importance of empathy, right? Even if you're working in a very high paced, especially when the chips are down and you're looking for growth wherever you can find it. And I suppose it is my hope that if one thing we retain from this COVID is the sense of empathy towards the people that we work with and together, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we all have human stories and human lives outside of the the walls that we work at. You spoke 100%. Earlier about mentors, and mentors, obviously, this platform is what it's all about, and making sure that people are getting the mentorship and understanding how the mentorship process works, right? Which is not nearly as simple as it sounds on paper. How have other leaders or mentors in your life, you spoke about having a few mentors, how have they helped shape your leadership style?
I think, one thing that mentorship has allowed me to do was to tap into a world of, I think, possibilities, number one, and a world of leadership that I'm still yet to encounter, or a world of business that I'm still yet to experience. And that has allowed me to prepare myself to, who Theo Baloyi is going to be the next 5 years and 10 years, because I've got mentors that, in the venture capitalist space with, over 20 companies in their portfolio, and some companies employing over 30,000 people. I've got mentors that have started businesses, that employs over 1,000 people. I only employ 200 people. I've got mentors that have businesses that are trading, in Africa, beyond South African borders. Mentors that have trades or business that trade overseas as well, and being able to trade in a global, I think, economy as well, and be able to explore opportunities and maximize opportunities overseas, yet, building, a proudly South African, I think, businesses that are yet, are pro-African as well. So mentorship has allowed me to tap, I'm not there yet, but it has allowed me to tap into that world, that also, I think, inspires me to aspire to be, in the next phase. you know, in the next couple of years, or to be where they are in the next couple of years. And I think it's been such a great, I think, platform that exposed me and that helps me, or that channels my focus into the right avenues of my business, into how do I scale my business, into the decision making and how to implement my strategy going forth, you know, because I can be able to, you know, capitalize and maximize on their losses, on their lessons, on their experiences, you know, and be able to tailor make it in my business and avoid the losses that they have suffered or the mistakes that they've made as well. And I think it's one of the things that I'm highly grateful for.
And I mean, for you speak about almost having a mentor for a lot of different facets, right? As you grow and as you realize where the growth opportunities are in your business and you personally, you know, you almost go and seek out a mentor in that with that specific history, understanding, expertise. For the people on this call who don't have any mentor in their career or in their personal life, how do they go and find that first one?
And I think, you know, sometimes, you know, you need to be intentional about which mentor you're looking for and what is the reason. You know, mentorship goes beyond just meeting over coffee, you know, having a great conversation and taking a few you know, snaps to post on Instagram, you know. So you need to be intentional about, you know, what are you looking for in a mentor, number one, and identify that and make sure that you leverage of, you know, the wealth of knowledge that your mentor has and what they can offer you and how they can help you, you know, build your dreams or build the person that you want to become. And sometimes, you know, I want to also emphasize the fact that those people are within reach. Sometimes those people are our uncles that are necessarily not, you know, I think doing well in contributing to the economy or have successful careers or businesses, but they've sort of led and lived a great life, you know, and that's where it starts, so that you can, you know, be able to build your own values first as a person that are close to home, or be able to change or embody values that you would want to have, you know, in your family as a person, and you develop. Then you can be able to explore. The reason I'm saying that is because oftentimes when you go out there, you are a fair presentation either of your family, you know, of your community, of the environment that you're exposed in. So if you look within, you know, and then you realize that you don't have, you know, great values surrounded by you, you need to be able to build that onto you first. Number two, if you feel like there's someone in your family who's got great values and you want to embody, they can be your first mentor as to how to become a great person with great values. And going forth, now we're living in an era where you can literally join this kind of platforms and, you know, listen to this conversation and, you know, take, you know, I think the notes that you can take and the lessons that you can take from this kind of platforms, or you even go on YouTube and have online mentors that you don't necessarily have to have them on your WhatsApp, but you can literally go, you know, onto YouTube or different platforms and engage with them or listen to them, you know, or even try to use socials to engage with them as well, you know. And I'm a firm believer of, I know people don't like this word of really, I think, taking initiative or hustling. People don't like me using that word, but, you know, I'm a firm believer in that, you know, just taking initiative whenever you see someone, obviously with respect and respecting their space, but trying to, you know, just, you know, do your take initiative and take the chance and try to build that relation with them, you know, because it's not every day that someone is gonna allow you into their personal space. So there's different ways of doing it, but I think what I'm trying to say is that it starts from, you know, you as a person and your environment and your background. And if there's people there that you feel like they've led a great life, they can be, you know, your point of reference, your first point of reference in, you know, in them mentoring you.
Amazing. I'm an avid reader. Whenever, I mean, not so much lately because everything is so busy, but I'm a firm believer in books, right? I mean, and books even as a mentorship platform, and there's so much you can learn, right? And at a relatively, to your point, there's so many free resources. Even the little book synopses you can find online can teach you amazing things in 5 minutes. Are you a reader? Do you like reading? And if you do, what is the most useful book? I mean, it's hard. I mean, impossible for me to mention one, but what books do you read? What are you into? What do you recommend people pick up and find?
Almost impossible for me to mention one, but I'll give it a shot. And because I've got so many favorite books, but I think I would suggest, you know, number one, I think the book that is, for me, it helped me a lot. Good to Great, they call it the Bible by Jim Collins. It's a book that has really taught me about, I think, excellence and how to move to, not necessarily a business, but how to move from, I think, or even maybe move a business from being good to great, or from just normal to being, the best, and how, that shift, what really caused a shift, I think in your life and in your building phase as well. It's a book that I think I try to read twice in a year, as much as I can. So I really enjoy that book.
Amazing. I've read it as well. I haven't read it. I might have to go read it twice. I have a habit of not reading things twice, only because I just feel like there's so much more to get to. Why would I want to go back to the same one? But I'll certainly go and revisit that as soon as I'm finished the 12 that are next to my bed at the moment. Let's speak about specifics. Let's speak about the last year, or the last 18 months in particular. Obviously, I would assume one of your proudest moments is just this abundant expansion that you've overgone. But if not that, what has been your proudest moment over the last year, 18 months?
I think, it's our people, again, that even when we were going through tough times globally, with the pandemic and so many things were happening, our people still showed up, to growing the business and contributing to the growth. And when I'm talking about our people, I'm talking about our team at Bathu, and I'm very proud of the people that they've become. And actually the other day I've actually put a status on LinkedIn about the beauty of the people that we've got in the business and how they've grown. We've got people that have started as literally packers. Today they are running our e-commerce division. People that started as packers, today they are our warehouse supervisors. People that started as at vacation work at our stores, and today they're managing our stores. They're retail managers. People that have bought their first cars, some are in their second cars, some are even in their third cars. People that have built homes for their parents, people that have built erected tombstones for their late ones. And I always say this, people tell me about Theo Baloyi and the Bathu story and how inspiring it is. Tell you what, we've got more inspiring stories at Bathu, and that's the main reason that keeps me going. It's because of the stories that we've got in Bathu and how people are doing well and how they have become role models in their society, how they've become, how they've broken the poverty cycle in their family, and now they are role models in their society, in their families, and they're leaders in their own right. And for me, that is my most proudest moment. And not only that, but it speaks to our vision to reignite hope and create sustainable jobs. We are that business. Just the other year, we got the Transformation Champion of the Year at the BBQ Awards. That speaks to who we are and how we've transformed our economies and our communities. And just this year, we got the Job Creation Company of the Year, because the jobs that we've created in the midst of the pandemic. And I think for me, that's the most proudest thing, because I always say this: I left one job, a very good job, that has helped me, that has enabled me to be the person that I am, and a firm that has built me to a leader that I am. And I left just one job that provided me and my family, and started a business that provided for 230 plus other families. And for me, that's my most proudest thing. And going back to what we spoke about earlier on, just being of service. And I often say this, that when you are of service, people will never forget how you made them feel. For example, if you're at the restaurant and the food is bad, the coffee is bad, but you're being served by a great waiter with a great smile, you will never forget how they make you feel, and then you will probably come back, to the same restaurant, not for the coffee, but for the service. And you need to be that and being of service. And I'm just proud of how our business has been of service, to our people, and for me, that is the most humble thing. God forbid, Bathu closes down, 10 years later, I'll still be happy. You know why? Because I know that people will never forget what this business has done for them when we were in trade. So that is why earlier on you mentioned about how I'm so bold and about everything else, because I'm content with the business that I'm building and what it's doing in communities. It closes down, God forbid, I'll still be content because I've been of service. And that is one of the things that makes me, I think, proud and sleep at night.
It's so amazing. I'm so humbled to hear you say that, simply because I think it's almost, and I may be taking it out of context, but it's almost that you're so confident that you are being of service and doing things with purpose and making a difference, that the risks of your job are worth it because you've already done so much. You've already felt like you've contributed. You've already made such huge differences that the next risk, even if it is the risk that shuts everything down, the fact that you've had a good number of years now of doing what you're passionate about, doing what you truly believe, doing what you're truly purposeful about, it's my mind is like, wow, maybe that's what's missing, right? Is this idea that risk it's not scary if you've been living a life of purpose the entire time, because you're not going to walk away with any regrets.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. And I love your enthusiasm is so contagious, but I'm desperate to know, surely, please make the rest of us feel like human beings and say, surely there's been one day in the last year where you have woken up and thought, I can't do this anymore. Like this, everything is gone. It's a disaster. Everything's on fire. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm incapable of doing this job. I need to give up. This is tickets. Please make us feel better. Tell us about one time.
Yeah. Well, I can't recall of, and I kid you not, I'm not trying. This is not it for PR or trying to look good. I like I said earlier on, I can be vulnerable at times and express my frustrations and my challenges. But I had my fair share of bad days, but they've never led to me thinking that I can't do this anymore or any like that. But I've had my fair share of challenges when I felt like this is just too much. And talking about that, just the other day, I say this all the time to my team. I put up a tweet, I think a month ago, that you were alone when God spoke to you, or when the purpose was unveiled or revealed to you, and don't expect anyone to feel it the same way, to understand the depth of it, because you were alone when God spoke to you. So the other day, I got to the office and our ops team told us that our truck, and I had a very jam-packed day, and our truck was involved in a minor accident down in Durban. And I'm like, I just have such a busy day. That is the last thing that I want to hear. I just got to the office and look at my to-do list, and Lulu, my EA, was like, yeah, but you were alone when God spoke to you. So please don't involve us, So you were alone when God spoke to you. So when my point is, when I'm having those days and I'm just going through a lot, I just get reminded by the bigger purpose and look at what is God trying to teach me out of this, or what is the biggest lesson out of this? How can I deal with it better? And how can I be able to sort of make changes in my business model so that I can accommodate this. And also, obviously, some things really question, the risk management that you've got in the risk management process that you've got in the business. Are they really efficient? How come, you find yourself in this position and so forth, So certain things, they just really question your strategy and, your business model and your value chain as to whether is it really, optimized and well optimized, and sometimes it really it's just an exposure and exposing how inefficient, sometimes your value chains and your process can be. So it's actually sometimes a good thing when you have challenges, because they get you to think and to really repurpose your business model.
That's such practical advice, because I'll be the first to admit, when I'm having, and I have mornings like that all the time, with the best of intentions about how everything was going to run smoothly, and then one little hiccup, and I'm always like, the universe is against me. I'm done. I don't know what's going on. It's always a very rational thing as to how you got into that situation. And I think it's great advice.
Yeah.
Is that it's an opportunity to review and say, well, if this one little thing is tripping us up, how do we fix that one little thing so it doesn't consistently happen every Thursday morning, as an example? Yeah. It's a great piece of advice. How have you changed over the last year, personally?
Shoo. Wow. I think I must admit, because when I started the business, I started it alone. I used to do a lot of, I think, the process that we've got today. There's no task in Bathu that I haven't done, and I kid you not, from deliveries, answering phones, running social media, doing PR, marketing, HR, finance, ops. There is no task in this business that I haven't done. And what that did, it built me and shaped me into a leader that is made to to the business, and certain things were very personal to me because it's a business close to my heart. So it got very personal at times, you know. And when I started the first years of my business was very personal. You touch Bathu, you touch my blood, you know. You mess up something, it gets personal, you know. And I think I've evolved to be a better leader now, and I think my EQ has really increased, and I'm a better leader now in a sense that, you know, I can let, you know, I can trust people in the business to run with certain tasks, and I can be able to not always involve my emotions, because we entrepreneurs, we tend to take things very personal. Sometimes it's not personal. It's just not personal, you know. It's how the business works. So I've grown to be a leader who's very, you know, accommodative, and who's really understanding, you know, and not take things too personal, and express my emotions when we've got, you know, the right processes, and we've got a human capital that is well capable of, you know, addressing, you know, the issues, and people that are not adherent to processes and policies. And I don't have to get involved. I don't have to, you know, express my emotions and so forth. So I think I've grown as in terms of my leadership approach a lot.
Yeah, it's somebody said something to me a couple of years ago, and it's exactly what you're saying. You know, when I had my first kind of leadership position, and I had to start hiring people, and I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I've always sat on the other side of the table, right? Terrified because I'm sitting in a job interview.
Yeah.
And somebody, it was also a mentor of mine, said to me, you know, the sign of a really confident leader is that they will hire people smarter than them, which is so important. And it's exactly what you're saying, is like, let the experts deal with marketing or digital or e-commerce, and have the confidence of a leader to have smarter people around you, right? It's the way that your business is going to grow. And speaking about that, and you said something, EQ, right? EQ is obviously it's a buzzword at the moment, and we've kind of seen this shift from, you know, the people at the top ranks of businesses, entrepreneurs being the smartest people in the room and having really like huge IQs, and actually people who are more emotionally prepared. And I suppose it's it always comes across as being quite fluffy, right? Like, oh, you need to be in touch. Your emotional quotient is about feelings, and I'm not really a feelings kind of person, so it's always something to get my head around. But really, it goes back to that idea of empathy and being able to deal with people in a way that before hasn't really been needed, right? And I think the way that we're working at the moment, and this online world that we're not only living in even before COVID, but more and more having to engage with people on platforms like this, how do we retain that connection with human beings when we are separated by technology, right? Which is the most unhuman thing there is. How do you foster it with your teams if you work in this remote environment and with partners, suppliers, potential customers? How do you facilitate that human connection over digital?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things that I've learned in business that is also helps build, I think, a great culture, and that, you know, keeps people in the business connected, is being able to build institutions outside work, institutions outside trade, institutions that are not really technical, but institutions that are going to, you know, help you connect on a human, I think, or as human beings. And what we do, obviously, in the business, we've got different business units that we try to engage and have those institutions that are not necessarily outside work, or they could be for work, but sometimes we use them, you know, just to, you know, connect to one another. And we've got, obviously, things like, you know, companies WhatsApp group, you know, where everyone else, we share, you know, the updates of the business, but most importantly, we share jokes, you know, we share, you know, birthday wishes on that. We share great accolades on that, you know, and then each and every business unit, they also have their own, you know, connection or platforms where they connect as well. Actually, we just also, you know, our human capital just, you know, implemented a very great platform which happens every Thursday in the business over Zoom, you know, called Readiness. And where that happens is that every week there's a topic that talks about, you know, or that enables our people, you know, and gets them ready for growth, you know. And it's basically a motivating session where everyone else joins as well, and be able to connect on that. And then obviously we do have, you know, obviously now we are on level 3, and when different, depending on the level, the alert level we're on, we always try to engage socially as well, either in the business where we just gather and talk about certain things, and we have sessions. And what we've then done as well in the business is that we also have coaches, so you have mentors within the business. We have a Spiwe who's been with us from a room in Alex, who's now a warehouse supervisor, and then who takes on everyone who joins the warehouse and takes them through a journey of what it feels like working for Bathu, and the do's and don'ts. And then because Piwe is from Alex and 80% of our people comes from Alex, he understands the dynamics and the challenges that the people from Alex go through, so you can connect with them in that sense as well. So we try to have those institutions that are not necessarily about work, but we try to align that with people that are just joining the business and connect on a human on a human basis. And the beauty about it is that we've got people in our business that have worked for great corporates, that have went to school and have worked for great organizations, and they come and obviously use that wealth of knowledge to give back to the intakes that we've got, the graduates that we have. We have a graduate program, we've got it learnership and internship programs where we take in a few kids, like either in marketing or in human capital, in IT, in the business, and we appoint mentors for them to say, 5 years ago as Theo Baloyi, when I started at PwC, I was also part of the graduate program, and this is how I spend my first paycheck. This is how much I was earning, and this is how you need to be able to survive and grow your career. These are the soft skills that you need to thrive in corporate. These are the technical skills that are required in finance as a finance intern, and so forth. And this is how you spend your money. And we also have other institutions like we bank with, with our bank that we bank with. They come in and do, I think, talks about money savings and how to sort of invest in long term and so forth. So we get to be able to connect with people in that, because we understand that not everyone has that understanding of how to really be how do I put it, to really build from what you have responsibly, because we've got weaknesses. Some people have weaknesses with their finance, some people have weaknesses with their interpersonal skills and so forth. So we really try to put institutions that are going to help us grow outside our work.
You spoke about culture, and I mean, obviously I work in an ad agency where culture is put a foosball table and some swear words on the wall, right? And let the people run riot. Obviously, it's so much more than that now, right? And I think often you take for granted how long it takes to build culture. And it's certainly not something that should be tied to one single person, and it's not something that happens overnight. So you've obviously got a culture within Bathu of being of service and almost this consistent growth and progression for people, even outside of their careers, which is super important, right? And it's almost part and parcel of a career these days, is that there's almost an expectation that we're going to look after people holistically and not just, okay, here, this is your job, this is where it starts and ends, and everything else is kind of your problem, which I think is obviously great, particularly because we ask so much more of people. How do you get people rallied behind your purpose? It's always so difficult, particularly when you've got 200 people. You may not have a direct impact on new people coming in. You may not have chosen them personally or specifically. How do you make sure that everybody is on board the same journey, and that you're all working towards the same goal at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's very difficult, but I think because with our mission, it's so authentic, and it's so, I think a lot of people resonate, with our mission, and not only with it, but with the vision. And the beauty about, I think we've been very blessed not to just talk about it, but to actually create impact. So when Theo says, I want to reignite hope, sounds good. It sounds good. It reads good on a piece of, on a newspaper article. But if Theo had to double tap on that and say, how are you reigniting hope? I've got stories in Bathu that I can literally, tell as to how we reignited hope. We jump and say, how are you creating sustainable jobs? Tell us. And I've got, people that we've employed that have been with the business from, for 3 years, for 4 years, and we're sustainably maintaining it even during the pandemic, and we're sustainably creating these jobs. And the vision to build a shoe brand that Africans can proudly affiliate with. People might ask, how are you achieving that? We were just named now, one of the most admired African brands in top 100 brand Africa, right? And it speaks to what we're trying to achieve. So it's always like we try to audit, our mission. And how we do it is that I always try to tell it because people are, they resonate with the mission. So what I'm trying to say is that I keep people connected to the purpose and what you're trying to build by asking them to be honest and authentic with themselves. To say, Theo, you work at Bathu, you get a salary, your life is, your life is changing and then you're doing great things and you're proud of you. But how many more people in your family that are unemployed? How many more people do you know in your community that would love to get this opportunity? How many more people do you know in a circle of friends that you've graduated with that are still looking for a job? So you at Bathu, you are duty bound, as Theo was duty bound when he was at PwC, to take his savings, to start something, to reignite hope and create sustainable jobs. Don't come here and sit comfortably because you've got a paycheck. What are you doing to be of service to the next person? You've got a cousin that is not working. What are you doing to make sure that you contribute to the business so that this business can employ or afford him an opportunity to come and work? Directly or indirectly, it doesn't have to be someone that you know. But are you aware that we did not start the business with 230 people? We started as Theo went to 10 people. 10 people worked together collectively to create 10 more jobs. It went to 20. The 20 collectively worked to create the 50. The 50 collectively worked to create the 100. So everyone plays a role. Theo does not create jobs.
Yeah.
You create the jobs by how you show up at work, how you achieve your deliverables. So you are duty bound to connect to the bigger purpose. It's not Theo's purpose. Be authentic with yourself as to how you're contributing. You're not doing it for Theo or for Bathu. You are doing it for your community, for your family, directly or indirectly. You are doing it for the people. So that's how I get people to connect to the purpose, to say it's not only about the contract of employment, guys. You play a role. The reason why we open in the 27th store, on Saturdays, because of the 26 stores have contributed to the group so that we can have the 27th. The reason why we have the 27 stores because of the first 2 stores that we had, they contributed to build the 3rd stores. The 3rd stores that we had contributed to build the 10, and so forth. And you can't come back and say it's Theo. You can't come back and say it's only Bathu soul. You play a role in that. And when I say you play a role, I'm talking even our esteemed clients that continue to support us in favorable and unfavorable times. I'm talking about our service providers that still, in favorable and unfavorable times, kick up and still come through and meet the demand and come up with favorable terms and understand, the space that we're in and contribute to the success of Bathu. So it's a collective effort. So I don't expect people to come here and say it's my purpose. It's ours. It's we need to keep contributing to it. I might have started it and I'm doing my part, but I can't do it alone. I need everyone in the business, our esteemed client and our awesome, and esteemed service providers, and the country at large to contribute to this purpose. So and I'm saying that's how I do it, by being authentic about the realities that we live in and the role that we have to play.
Yeah.
So you make a call.
Yeah. It's this idea of collective progress, right?
Do your job the right way or not.
Yeah. I think we maybe a few years ago, and certainly how it was for me was this overriding sense of personal progress. Like, I need to make it, I need to get a degree, I need to get a good job, I need to make my mother proud or whatever. But I think very quickly, and particularly with the challenges that we face whether in small communities or as a country, is this idea that we've got to apply collective progress, right? Everybody's got to take accountability to get us all moving forward. It can't rest on the shoulders of one person. Obviously, you need a spark, right? You need a Theo Baloyi to say, hang on, there's something we can do better. And you need that person to rally the guys behind them. And I certainly think as leaders, our job is to be of service and to ensure there's collective progress and to spread the accountability a little bit and make people realize that the only way growth doesn't come from one person, growth doesn't come from leadership, growth doesn't come from good economic times, it comes from collective effort and collective accountability. You're obviously incredibly inspirational, and you inspire hundreds of thousands of people
Thank
every
you.
day, not only just the 200 people that work for you, but who inspires you? What gets you up in the morning? Aside from this amazing opportunity to be of service and to make a difference, who are the people that inspire you?
You. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, I don't think I am inspirational, but it means a lot coming from you. I've got a lot of people that inspire me, and for I think various reasons, and what they are doing. But I think, like I said, our people inspire the people in Bathu inspires me to keep going, because how I see their progress, in life, and what they're doing for their families, and how they've grown into the leaders that they are, into the professionals that they are in the business as well, and how they have developed, and they have sort of empowered themselves with education as well. They've really grown with the business. It really inspires me, because it says a lot about their intentions, into the kind of people that they are. But I have a lot of people that inspires me, I think, in the business space. One of, I think, the most important guys that that really inspired me, and when I look at their journey, their no more, is the late Dr. Richard Maponya, mainly on how he has built his business, and how his business, even long after he is gone, has got great contribution to the community of Soweto and many other communities in South Africa. The legend that he is, or he was, and how he started from humble beginnings, with that of being of service and really building, I think the township economy. Talking about the township economy, Mr. Mike Nkuna of the Masingenta Group, also really inspires me. Also, again, because of the business that they've built, and the communities that they trade in, and how they've created impact in those communities as well. They really inspire me, and I've got a lot. I mean, obviously on a global scale as well, but those are the people that I really look up to as to how they build their business.
I'm going to go off script for a second, so because we're running out of questions, because I just want to ask you more and more stuff, but based on what you've said. I'm interested to know you're obviously and I completely appreciate, quite a frank person, right? So I would imagine when you're interacting with your teams and with people that you work with, you're quite frank, you're quite open, you're quite transparent, you say it like it is. How do you have tough conversations? The tough conversations are hard, right? They're hard to have a tough conversation with somebody about performance, or potentially that they're not inputting as much as their expectations. How do you have tough conversations with people?
It's really tough, because again, we're talking about people, and not every. One thing that I've realized about that this business has taught me, or that business has taught me, is that people are not you. So we tend to expect people to be us, and to see things the way we see them. We tend to expect people to do their job the way we want them to do it. We expect people, just because Theo will be here at 5 in the morning and knock off at, at 7 p.m. or be here at 9 and knock off at, midnight or 10, because there's work to be done. And that's the school of thought that I come from. PwC has taught us that when there's work to be done, the work has to be done, charitable or non-charitable work, it needs to be done, so that's where I come from. So, and we expect people to do that. So when someone knocks off at 5, you're like, you're leaving at 5. I mean, there's work to be done, but people are not you. So I try to be able to understand where they're coming from, and try to understand where people are, on their personal space and at work as well, and be frank with them. And I challenge my team a lot about authenticity, and going back to your question earlier on as to how we maintain the purpose and the core vision and the mission of the business. I always try to have authentic conversations, and I always tell our people that it's very important to be authentic, because, Jessica, remember, we're living in an era of social currency, an era where I think socials have really taken over, and they build perception, and a lot of perceptions are built on lies. In the build on lies, a cup of cappuccino looks good, but it actually tastes horrible. And they go on stories and drink, and they say it's good, but they know it's horrible, and people tend to fall on that trap to really build on a perception. So I'm like, I always tell my team that, I'm going to have an honest conversation with you and I don't mean to make you feel bad or insult you anyhow or make you feel terrible, but it's very important to be authentic and have those difficult conversations. And I think I haven't gotten it right, but I've got the help of human capital that helps me engage with on those conversations as well. But I just be authentic, and because I've had the privilege of working with a lot of people for the longest of time, they know that I mean well when I, be honest with them. I don't mean to demotivate them or say anything bad about them. I just mean that, so I just have authentic conversations, and they're never easy, like you said, they're hard conversations, but for Bathu and for the mission and for what we're trying to achieve, they're very important that we have those conversations. And it's one of those things that you just need to, be strong and just get it done. Even though it gets very uncomfortable at times, but because I care so much about our business, I do them anyway.
Yeah. And finally, I mean, I know we've probably got loads of questions racked up there, so I want to make sure that there's loads of time for you to answer them. So final one from my side. There's obviously a lot of future leaders on this call, potentially current leaders as well. 3 pieces of advice from Mr. Theo Baloyi to the people on this call right now. What are those top 3 pieces of advice?
I think you've taken all the pieces of advice that I have in the questioning. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing that I've said. But I think number one, it's very important as a human being to be authentic. You will never run out of that currency. You would never have to explain yourself 2 or 3 more times to anyone if you're authentic, if you are true to who you are, if you're true to where you come from, true to where you want to go, if you're true to your character, it will save you a whole lot of energy, trouble, bad opportunities, and mistakes. If you are authentic to your core, you would never have to explain yourself or your business or who you are to anyone, because people will know you for who you truly are. Number 2, I think I've said this many times, also, having the clear intentions, have intentions that are very clear, to you, and that are also true to who you are. And always remember why you started, why you're doing something, why you're working on a project, why you have this client on, why are you part of this graduate program, why are you part of this business, why are you studying so hard, why do you have to, go out and network. Always have those clear intentions. Always ask the intention as to why are you doing this. Once you can understand why you're doing it and you understand the purpose of doing it, then, it's going to set your heart free, because if it's going to inspire you to do it against the odds. Number 3, in anything that you do, in corporate, in your communities, in your business, always remember, be of service. Because when you're of service, people will never forget what you've done for them. And then through service, you produce excellence. It doesn't matter, like I've made an example earlier on, even when you're being served by, a great waiter, people will never forget how you made them feel and how you served them. In anything that you do, in corporate, when I was at PwC in my graduate, throughout my years at PwCs, I've learned a lot of soft and technical skills. And I was that guy, Jessica, you can attest, people that have worked with me at PwC that have, that have shared, that we work the clients together, they know this. I was that guy. When you're sitting in the boardroom with the client involved, 10 of us in the boardroom, when I stand up and go out for coffee, I would kindly ask, guys, I'm going out for coffee. Do you want some? And a few more guys would say, oh, that's so kind of you, Theo. We'll come with you, bring me a cup and I'll do that. I was that guy. I've never left work in the presence of my manager without going to my manager and telling him or asking him, that I'm done with my deliverables. I've sent all the work that you've asked me to do. Is there anything else that I can help you with? Because I'm about to knock off. Sometimes they will say, look, okay, we're done with you, thank you. Or they will say, actually, we'd really appreciate the help. You're not booked on this client, but if you can do this for me, if you can help if we can help me on this, to a point that my partner at PwC at some point, had to call me on a weekend when I was driving home, asking me if I'm available to come help at the office. And I had to make my way, go into the office to help. So I was always of service to the business, to the client, and even today in my business, I'm always of service, to our community. So never forget that you should always be of service in anything that you do, to your leaders, to your businesses, to your clients, and your communities.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to Laura now to field the plethora of questions. I hope that's not 467 questions there I see on my screen.
I hope so too.
Amazing. I'm handing over to Laura now.
Thank you, Jessica.
Cheers, bye-bye.
Thanks, Jess. That was awesome. And there are a lot of questions in the audience, Theo. There's no doubt about it. There's a few words that I've taken away. I always scribble like key takeaways down. And I think it's incredible. So my first one is people, people, people. That's not a word, it's three. But people, people, people. Keep connecting to purpose. Duty bound to connect to a bigger purpose. Sometimes it's not personal, and be of service. So I think I would like to think that sums up pretty much your approach to everything, and it's incredible. And the audience is very inspired, I can tell you that. It's also clear that you left a legacy behind you at PwC. I see Shirley Machaba's in the audience, and she confirms, she says you are humble, respectful, and diligent. So you clearly have this purpose throughout your whole life, and it's not just words. So you're very inspiring, Theo.
Thank you.
What we have in the audience is many entrepreneurs, whether they're students, whether they're young professionals, many of them I can see are entrepreneurs with their side hustles. They want to know a little bit more about how you moved from just Theo, those first stages. How did you move from 0 people to 10 people? That first bit.
Laura, I think it was, it's such an amazing testimony, because when I quit my job at PwC, I had a sole purpose just to relocate back home, to start with what I've got, and try to reignite hope and create sustainable jobs. I was literally in my room, packing the boxes, putting them in my car, driving to deliver to a client, getting the payment, going to deposit it, coming back, doing socials, doing PR, doing my financials, doing my strategy. And it sort of bugged, because it started by one day having 20 orders. The next day you've got 40 orders. Then you can't, pack all the 40 boxes by yourself. Without the right human or recruitment process in the business, you literally get the next guy on the street to come help you pack the boxes. The next day you've got 70 orders. You do the same thing as 3 guys. The next day you got, 5 guys working for you, because you've got 100 orders in a day, and you're starting to build. And I realized that, it's actually not the right way to do it. So our first 10 people, it was all by default. It was just getting more orders, getting people that I knew from my community to come help run the operations of this little business that I was starting. And that's how I moved from Theo to 10. But the Theo who's in me, and I think the Theo who was obviously worked for corporate, knew very well that this is not the right way of running a business. I need to corporatize so that I can be able to scale. And that's how I got to build from, the 10 to the 20 to the 30, because ideally I knew that this is not how businesses run. You can't just, work casually and recruit people casually without contract of employment, without the right processes and so forth. So then that's when I started corporatizing. But the first 10 people on business was literally, I casually recruited them, from my community.
That's amazing, but you make growth sound really, really easy. Was it that easy, just to go from 10 orders to 20 orders to 50 orders to 100 orders? And this goes back to some of the questions in the audience as well. They're very interested in your marketing strategies and what you believe are the best marketing strategies.
Yeah, no, it wasn't easy. And I was about to actually say that it was obviously to grow the orders. It was, through marketing, I think, social media has helped us really build, I think, a platform that can expose and allow us to tap into a different audience quicker. And that's how I got to move, grow the orders as well, because I used influencer marketing. at the time when I started, with someone who's been very dearly to our brand and who has really helped scale our brand and expose our brand to his audience, and even the way we got him, Somizi, we obviously had to go deliver a pair for him, at the SABC. We hustled him at the SABC, did an elevator pitch to say, this is who we are, this is what our brand is about, and we'd love to give you a pair to try it on. And that's how it all started. And obviously, as soon as he posted us on socials, obviously exposed us to a larger audience, and that's how the orders grew and built. So being able to clearly and intentionally identify and communicate your brand promise and getting a strong, I think, asset to advocate for your brand that can have great reach, really help build the business. Because a lot of people have great products and services, but they don't know how to accommodate or communicate, their USP or to communicate their brand promise, So I think that's one thing in terms of marketing that we've done very well. We clearly communicated our vision and our brand promise to the right audience.
That's incredible, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I mean, your social media presence is incredible. Would you say that social media is the most important form of marketing?
Yes, I would arguably say so. Obviously not the only one, but I think it's one of the most I think efficient ways of or means of reaching to our audience or people. Depending obviously at what you're putting out and the kind of content that you put out. There's a saying that says content is key. So content, and the way you put the content together. If you put it out the right way, it can actually reach. We see it with how our African brothers are being able to reach the world. Through music, through talent, and so forth. How the world is just dancing to Jerusalem by Master KG, mainly because of socials and how the Jerusalem challenge have started, and how Cristiano Ronaldo and these big celebrities have embodied it and it trended. So it's the most efficient way, depending on the content that you put and how you put it out. And if it reaches the right people, it can actually grow your business.
For sure. I completely agree with you, but that happens to like 1 in a million people.
yeah, sure.
I mean, there's a lot of people who are pushing on social media, who have got the content, who are trying, and who just don't get there. Would you have any advice
totally
on how to up that?
I don't think there's a right way or wrong way of doing it. There's a guy that I'm sure a lot of people know him a lot, Gary V, who's also very inspirational and believes in content and pushing out as much content as you get, as you can, irrespective of whether it gets the right traction or not, but just being consistent and putting out content. I don't necessarily believe in that, but I believe like that you don't have to obviously be in people's faces a lot, but you need to sort of be consistent, with your content delivery and how you roll it out, because there's going to be, out of the 10, maybe there's going to be 1 or 2 that gains traction. And that traction, if you really, use it well, you can convert into sales, you can convert into many other things that can grow your business. So that content delivery, you need to, I think, be intentional about it and go about it.
So it's that link to delivering on your content and your brand promise that is so important. And if you get that right, then it just blows up.
100%.
Awesome. There's lots of people who are really impressed in the audience. There is a slightly more corporate theme emerging in the chat as well, which we'll just go to quickly, I think. They want to know about funding and seed funding and when's the right time, and also rejection of how did you manage to be resilient after they've read you've had much rejection at the beginning? How did you keep the resilience? So there's actually 2 questions there, sorry.
Sure. I always say this, depending on the nature of your business and the dynamics of your industry, sometimes you can start a business without funding, but sometimes you can't because of the nature of that business. But one of the most important things when I've never raised funding, but obviously I have engaged with people who have, and I have had the privilege when I was at the firm at PwC, worked at the deals team and really did mergers and acquisitions with great entrepreneur stories as to how they raised funding. One of the most important things when you are doing that is obviously being able to come up with a solid proof of concept. The minute you can prove to the next person or to the funder, that you can commercialize your business and you can scale it, and you can focus it right. You can be able to get that appetite to raise funding, and sometimes, like the way we started our business, when we started our perfume business in Alex many years ago, we didn't have the funding to start the business. We had the idea, but it was capital intensive to invest in it. And then what we did is that we knew someone who used to sell ties, pocket squares, and cufflinks. We went to him, we're like, dude, how about that you give us your stock on consignment, and we go sell it. At the time, it was in 2010, Gauteng was the big thing. We went to the Gauteng station and sold the cufflinks to the right people who were in corporate. And then we paid him, obviously his money, we took our cut, we took our proceed and invested in the perfume business, and it became a hit, right? So no one funded us, but we had to think about how to raise funding. So there's two different ways of doing it, and I think it's very important. The challenges for me when I started, I was declined about 13 times by a factory, but what kept me going was the understanding, of that people have different lengths on. People see things differently. Don't expect people to see things the way you see them. So when people say no, allow them to be, and forgive them for saying no, because they probably have a different lens, as opposed to the one you have, because you were alone when God spoke to you. When that was revealed to you, when you saw the business, when you identified it, when you put the business model together, you were alone. You're the one who understand it. So you can't expect to just walk into a room full of investors, pitch it once, and expect a yes. Yeah, and amen, and then that's it. Let's go. Let's get the money. Let's get rolling. So you need to allow, in your approach, allow space and room for rejection. And not because of people don't believe in your idea or your idea won't work out, but simply because we are dealing with human creatures of emotions and people see things differently. And when they say no, don't take it personal. It simply means they don't have the same lens as opposed to the one that you've got.
That's amazing. I'd actually written down it's not personal, and then you covered it straight away.
Yeah.
So I love the way you keep going back to what is clearly your core values, which is just the authentic, just believe in yourself and believe in yourself, be authentic, follow through. And actually, if you have that belief, then you can walk any path. And God spoke to me, you said, you can walk any path. And rejection is just part of the journey.
Rejection is just part of the journey. Like I've said in the 3 last advices that I gave to you, Jessica, is that authenticity. When you're authentic, and I think people don't get it, like authenticity does not mean great stories. So you can be authentic with the horrible stories. You can, because it's your story, own it. Like if you come from a poverty-stricken background, you don't have to polish it. That's where you come from. Own it and be authentic and be happy about it. And there's no need to sort of paint the picture, a perception. Then you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. I'm very proud, and I speak proudly about how I started my business, because I did not start in a fancy office. And oftentimes people get to ask me, but you were working for PwC, then you left, and you went to Alex, you started. It does not make sense. What's happening? And I'm like, this is what happened. I can proudly and authentically tell you, because it's my story. I'm not buying it. I'm not faking it. It's not for PR. It's where I started. So when you have that, you be able to get into any room, walk into any room confidently and say, this is who I am. And you don't have to explain yourself to anyone ever again.
Because you're not hiding behind anything. You're just owning your journey, and your journey brought you to the point where you are now.
100%.
So going back to the questions, there's lots of vision here. You clearly have a vision. You're clearly very aligned to your vision, and you clearly stay true to your vision. But what's your vision going forward? So what's coming next, Theo?
So there's a lot that coming next. I mean, when I started the business, I did about 18 months of research and development and proof of concept. And one of the findings from our research when I started at the time, I used to be a sneakerhead myself, used to buy a lot of sneakers myself. And that's when I thought about starting Bathu, because when I looked at my available collection, I couldn't find a sneaker brand from Africa, a sneaker brand that is from Africa. And I was buying a lot of sneakers at the time. There's a saying that says, if you're buying too much of it, then why not own it, and I just decided to start a sneaker brand. So part of my research was that we've got about 7 continents in the world, and each and every continent has a fair share of, footwear presentation. You look at South America, Brazil to be specific, they've got Ipanema and Havaians. The States have, All Star by Converse, Nike by Phil Knight. Under Armour by Kevin Plank, and many other European footwear brands, Adidas, Puma, and many other Italian footwear brands. But when I came down to Africa, I couldn't find that one sneaker brand that can be benchmarked with these footwear brands, benchmarked in terms of quality, product development. We can even take it further to CSI. None whatsoever. Build a shoe brand that Africans can proudly affiliate with. Even Italian or someone in Italy can look at and say, I love this brand because of the brand promise that they offer in their product, not because of it's come from Africa, but because of what they stand for and their sense of style, and I want to buy it. Or you one day fly into Argentina at the airport and you see a Bathu billboard there, and we are there representing Africa about our vision. And that's where I want to go. And talking about where we are going, like as I've mentioned, we just got named, at the top 100 most admired African brands. We ranked number 10 on that list. Thank you. Ranking number 10 on that list. A brand survey and study that was done by Brand Africa over 28 countries that constitutes of 80% of African consumers, over 3,500 brand mentions, and 1,500 unique brands. And Bathu came to number 10 out of that list in Africa. So to answer your question, that's where we are going. We've got a great appetite in East Africa and West Africa. Kenya is showing us great love. So we want to start going into Africa, starting with SADC, and obviously penetrating the East and West Africa in the next 5-10 years.
That's incredible, Theo. I'm looking at the growth and what you've achieved in the past 6 years. I don't think anybody has a single doubt that you've got amazing things ahead.
Thank you.
I'm going to just go back to the advice question, because I know Jess asked you for 3 pieces of advice to the audience out there, but there was a question linked to that in the audience: is would you have a piece of advice for 20-year-old Theo?
Would I have?
A piece of advice for yourself, age 20. Go back to yourself when you were 20. And what could you tell yourself then?
Don't be worried. I think I would say to myself, if I knew, I wouldn't have worried about the things that I was worrying about when I was 20, or concerning myself about when I was 20, because they don't really matter, and they never mattered in any way. It was just what society made us perceive into or look into. But those things really, really mattered. And I would tell myself to be patient with myself, because the universe has a way of putting things together, and through your energy, so if you've got great energy and you leave everything onto the universe, everything else turns out beautifully. I kid you not. Even in your wildest dreams and the biggest dreams that you've got, that you think they are almost impossible to achieve, and you look at certain people and you feel like, that is great, if I achieve this, I will be so happy. Tell you what, if you are patient and you're authentic and you don't worry about a lot of things and you focus to the core, you will actually achieve far greater things, and far greater than the people that you look up to. If you think Theo is your role model and inspires you, if you don't worry at 20 and you let the universe be, Theo's success is just like a portion of what you can achieve.
That's incredible. I've actually got goosebumps from that, and I'm sure I'm not alone. I can think of no better way than to wind up this webinar with those most inspirational and beautiful comments. Don't let yourself be forced into a mold, and just put those positive vibrations out into the universe. And the universe has got a funny way of making things happen, but potentially not always in the way we expect it to.
Yeah, true.
So Theo, on that note, it's been an absolutely amazing hour and a half. I've learned a lot. There's certainly things that you might get an email from me later, but we'll also send the chat through to you. We'll send the attendees through to you. You can have a look at the engagement. It's outstanding. And of course, guys in the audience, last chance, Theo will be selecting his 60-minute mentorship winner. So on that note, I'm going to wrap up. We're bang on time, so that's also works beautifully. Thank you. I'm completely honoured to share a platform with you, Theo. You've made me reanalyze my alignment with my purpose as well. So for me, thank you very much. And everybody, students in the audience, we've got a lot coming up. We are interviewing Akram Mohammed from Huawei on the 27th of August. We've got Vukani, the CEO of Accenture, coming up. But next week, on the 6th of August, we've got Old Mutual who want to talk to you as well. So everybody, thank you so much. Theo, like I said, honored, inspired. I wish you a fabulous day. And I have no doubt that the Bathu brand will be up there as a global brand in the next 5 years.
Thank you, Laura, for the invitation. I truly appreciate it. And thank you to everyone, the attendees, everyone who has joined this conversation. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been fun. Thank you.